Thank you for tuning in to The Balancing Fact. I'm Angela Calais. I have been a full-time realtor for the past 16 years. With 3 kids running a real estate brokerage, I work to dispel the myth that you cannot have a work-life balance when working in real estate. That balance looks different for everybody. Today my guest is Rita Wilkins. Rita is a nationally recognized interior design and lifestyle design expert known as the Downsizing Designer, TEDx speaker, and author of the best-selling book, Downsize Your Life, Upgrade Your Lifestyle. As an interior designer for the past 38 years, she has designed thousands of residential and commercial interiors throughout the United States. Everything from Supreme Court justice chambers to corporate penthouses to tiny kitchens and tiny houses. As a lifestyle designer, Rita speaks to audiences across the country on the impact of living abundantly with less. She challenges them to disrupt their status quo thinking so they can have more time, money, and freedom to pursue what matters most to them. Rita is committed to people living the life they love by design. Rita's downsizing has so many benefits that I'm sure we can all learn from. Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Angela. Nice to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to talk with you for such a long time because when we first met, I was really intrigued by your business and your philosophy. And I think that so many people can find value that will help them in their lives by the services that you offer as the downsizing decorator. So what can you tell me about how by minimizing some of the things in our life, we can actually enhance our life?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm going to give you just a little bit of a background first, and that's that I have been a designer for 38 years, and I've owned a company for 38 years. And, designers were around beautiful stuff. And of course, one of our jobs is to enhance those spaces and those interiors. So in other words, to add more stuff. And for many, many years, that's exactly what I did do. And then it was a trip to a third world country that changed my life because I never experienced people who have nothing, but they were happy. And so even though I had a very large home that was absolutely beautiful and I built it and I loved it, but when I came home, it was almost as if the lights went out for me because it was then just stuff. and it was that big shift in my mindset that I thought, wow, do I really need all of this stuff to be happy? And that became my big question. And then I did a TED talk on why less is more. And so coming from a design background and having beautiful things in my life, and then I downsized by 95%.
Wow.
I gave away 95% of what I once had, and then I've never been happier. So the experience was I had a lot, I gave away a lot, and I've never been happier. So how I relate that to clients and to people that I speak to all over the country is stuff takes up a lot of space, not just physically, but also mentally. So as an example, if you have clutter in your home right now, chances are there's some version of angst and upset. When it's too much, people are oftentimes ashamed to have you into their home. When that clutter or too much stuff is on your desk, you have a hard time focusing. And so the more stuff we have, the harder it is for us to enjoy our life to the fullest. Now, it's not to say we can't, but when you experience having less, it's pretty hard to go back. Okay. So the idea being that you might just try it. So if you even think about your closet, so if you were to say, for the next month, I'm only going to wear 10 things, what does that feel like? And you'll probably experience, wow, I did it. And I felt good every day. And I, was wearing things I really enjoy. And then you might try it with your furnishings in one of your rooms and just remove a couple of pieces from there and say, what is that like when I don't have it? You're probably going to experience that, wow, I did just fine, number one. But number two, it feels so much more peaceful and more serene. And to the point of the closet, wow, I don't have so many choices every morning, and I can get ready faster
Mm.
and I'm just as happy. So by simplifying your life, by doing away with some of the stuff, it just makes your life easier.
Yeah, and like you said, who doesn't need more peace, right? If we're not focusing on some of those other material things, or like you said, even taking the time to figure out what to wear in the morning, if we didn't have those types of intrusions or interruptions, what other types of things could we accomplish or could we do or spend more valuable time on, right?
Exactly.
So,
And I think that COVID was a perfect example of what happened with many people, is that they were now restricted to their homes or much smaller spaces. They actually realized that they could have real conversations with their family. They could have real dinners at the kitchen table. Whereas when we go, and we're too busy, because clutter is also part of your schedule, because we
yeah.
clutter our schedules with too many things. One client actually said to me, and it was just probably the most profound statement I think I've ever heard. I had no idea that my 10-year-old daughter and I could have such wonderful conversations.
Mm.
Now that came about because of COVID, because prior to that, he was way too busy to actually sit down with her. And so how did that benefit both of them? Number one, she got her dad. And then number two, he got his daughter back. And that may not have happened had he not slowed down enough. So in other words, what was taken away from him, or what was decluttered in his life, is his busy schedule.
Wow. Is that, I would imagine that is troubling to most families when downsizing the schedule, when it comes to our space in our home. Do you find, working with clients, that typically most families benefit most from downsizing their kitchen, or most families benefit most from downsizing their closets? Is there one area you'd say, if you're going to start somewhere, or start
Yeah.
here, or would it be different for everybody?
It is different for everyone. And the way I like to approach that is what area bothers you the most about your home? So it could be your mudroom, it could be your laundry room, it could be your family room, it could be your kitchen counter. So that's where you start. And let's just say that it is your mudroom. And right now it's filled with book bags and boots and coats and gloves, and there's no order to it. And every time you walk in from the garage, you feel that angst, that overwhelm. Or let's say that it's your family room. The kids never pick up their socks. Their book bags are everywhere. And of course I'm saying the kids, but it's also us. So it's a matter of working on the room that bothers you the most, and do one area at a time. You don't have to do it all, but just feel what it feels like when that area is not busy, when it's not cluttered, when there's not so many distractions. So think about your desk. And I know, as a businesswoman, you probably have a desk and it probably has some piles, because that would be normal. What does it feel like at the end of the day to have all of those piles gone, or fewer piles? It just gives you a sense of peace. There's fewer distractions. And generally speaking, you're happier.
Yeah, you can take a deep breath after you go through that pile in your desk and you get through it. Yeah, it's very, very relieving.
And the same is true. And I know that you work a lot with mothers. My children are now grown, but I do have a granddaughter, and they tend to leave little messes wherever they go, and that's okay, because so do we. So I'm actually doing a blog about this in the next week or so, but kids and clutter. Can you actually have an organized home with kids? And the answer is yes.
Oh, good. Sure, the people want to hear that.
Or I could put another word instead of kids. I could say husbands or wives or whatever. So whatever your issue is with clutter, start with yourself, right? So when we think about kids and clutter, when kids watch you cleaning up every day the kitchen counter or the kitchen table, doing the dishes, engage them in that activity if they can. And then If they see you picking up your clothes, or picking up your shoes after a whole family time of watching TV or something like that, if they see that, and if you actually verbalize that and say, whew, I've got to clean up these shoes and I've got to clean up these clothes and look at all those newspapers, and you pile them up. And then you might say, Jack, would you mind picking up your toys too? So we're role modeling day by day by day.
Yeah.
And when we complain about it, we sometimes dig in. So a spouse might dig in and say, that's not my stuff, that's your stuff. But when you start dealing with your own stuff first, you become a good role model.
Mm-hmm. How do you approach some of those emotional attachment items? So I have one of my sons, I won't say who, one of my sons has a room that it's just so many things. And he gets attached to the box that his shoes came in, or the box that this toy came in. He thinks it's pretty. He thinks it's sturdy, and he can use it to store other things. And it has so much other potential. So he's got boxes and boxes. And I think, oh God, he's going to be a hoarder someday. And where do I, but the interesting thing is, so probably twice a year, I have to go through his room and really do my level of organizing and cleaning. And he comes in, he goes, oh, this feels great, Mom. Thank you so much. I can use my desk. I feel like I can be so productive. But he can't keep it that way because he can't get rid of these things that I get rid of when he's not around. So how do you approach that? It's okay to get rid of some of these things.
Yeah. So I know you're talking about your son. How old is your son?
He's 13.
Okay. So I know you're talking about your son at this moment, but let's apply that to an adult that you might know, and it might even be you, that might have lost a family member, and you inherit all of this stuff. And maybe right now it's sitting in your basement or in your garage or a combination thereof. And you're saying, I can't let go of it because it means so much to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In a way, your son is saying that box or whatever it is means a lot to him. Mm-hmm. So the goal there is to start a line of questioning, like, why does it matter so much to you? Without judgment. And try to understand, well, it means so much to me because X, Y, Z. Well, what would it feel like if you didn't have that box? Would you feel insecure? So going back to the adult side, what would it feel like if you didn't have all of your mother's china? Does that mean that your mother, who might now be deceased, no longer loves you, or that you're going to lose that memory? And the answer is no. The memory's in your heart. And do you really need all 16 pieces of china, right? Mm-hmm. All 16 place settings of china, which is what I inherited. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't let it go because it reminded me so much of how much she loved entertaining and all the people sitting around our table. Yeah. I couldn't let go of that memory. But when I downsized, obviously I didn't need 16 pieces, but I kept 4. So in terms of your son, I'm not sure I'm answering the question exactly, but it's more a matter of getting to, why are you attached to that box? And the bottom line is, maybe the box isn't hurting anything. Maybe he should keep the box, just like I kept 4 place settings of china. But what else could he let go of without it being a big deal? Yeah. So actually tonight on my Facebook Live, I'm talking about a 5-step guide to letting go of sentimental clutter without losing the memories.
Oh, wow.
And there's actually, if you were to go to my website, there's a free download on that same thing, and it takes you step by step by step. So it's understanding, why do I hold on to it? What's the emotion that I'm attaching to it? So for me, it was, I remember my mother doing this, and I know she loved me. What would happen if I let go of it? Well, my mother's gone. I'm going to always have her memories in my heart. And if I keep a little bit of it, I'm still going to have that joy. And
Yeah.
another way to do that is, my kitchen table that used to sit 16 people. I couldn't fit that into my tiny apartment. So I gave it away to an Hispanic family that's worked for me for years. To this
Mm,
day, I can see them sitting around that kitchen table. So when you donate things that are meaningful to you to someone who would enjoy it, it gives you great joy.
absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can totally see that. I remember having that conversation like that with one of my kids. I can't remember which one, but it was you don't use these toys anymore. Think of how much joy it'll bring to another kid. So kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
um, that
So
same idea.
your son's a little bit older, maybe, than believing in Santa Claus, but this is a technique that one of my clients used.
Mm,
Santa Claus comes down that chimney with a big red bag full of toys, and suppose that we, meaning you and your children, yeah, in this case,
mhm,
young children, how about if we fill up that bag so that he can then bring more toys to children that aren't as lucky as you are?
mm.
Those kids got so into that spirit that she literally went out and bought a big Santa bag, like a big Santa bag. She said it was filled
I
3 times.
love that.
Yep, yep. So, that gift of giving and
Hmm.
and the generosity kicks in when you own less.
Yeah.
So to your point, they don't even use those anymore. You might create some sort of a 3-month cycle, 6-month cycle, and say, June 1st every year or December 1st every year,
Mhm.
why don't we go through your room? And
Yeah.
because he already expressed to you how much he enjoyed that clean room, you
Mhm.
could do it on a quarterly basis and have them look forward to it, and then have them actually experience putting those toys that they're no longer using in a box and actually experiencing bringing it to a homeless shelter.
Mhm. Yeah.
When my boys were younger, that's what we did. And to this day, they'll never forget those memories of how
Yeah.
excited those kids were to receive these toys that they weren't using.
Yeah. When you start a project or a room or a closet or a space, do you have a method to go about how to determine what you should keep and what you shouldn't keep?
So actually, I can start from any place. Wherever people are at that moment, that's where I have to start. So what you're talking about right now is exactly a new client. Well, actually, she's an old client. I worked with her years ago, but they're now downsizing. And she said, Rita, I have no idea what to bring with me. And so she does. They've already purchased a new home. They know that it's about half the size of their current home. So having that knowledge, if you think about right now, you have a 5-bedroom home, but you're moving to a 2-bedroom home. Okay, well, just think about bedrooms. You need 3 less beds.
Mhm.
And that is, so it's a very logical design process that I use to help people with the actual space planning. Um, on my website, actually on my YouTube channel, I have a video called The ABCs of Downsizing that people have found very, very helpful. When I was downsizing, and because as a designer, we might design big buildings. So
Mhm.
you chunk that big building down into smaller space, smaller pieces, so you're not overwhelmed. The same thing is true of downsizing. When I downsized, I was overwhelmed at first. And I said, look, you can do a building, you can do this house. So I chunked it down into what I call the ABCs. So I said, okay, A, what do I cannot get rid of because I love it, I use it, it means a lot to me, and it's pretty. The
Mhm.
C are those things I don't want it, I never use it anymore, but thinking about getting rid of it anyway. So you put all of your area items, A items here. Your C items are gone. Get them out of the house. Your house is already starting to feel lighter.
Mm.
The B items are the harder ones.
Yeah.
B items for me it was clothing. Like I had all those closets full of clothes. That was harder. But then I brought in a very strong friend, strong willed, who helped me get through that process. But in answer to your question, if people are saying, what should I bring? What should I not bring? Yes, we walk through and I kind of create what I call my ABC list with them. And then, if they want me to, I hold them to account. So you said you were going to get rid of all those C items. So what timeline can you expect to get rid of those? And because a whole house is overwhelming, we might start with 1 or 2 or 3 rooms at a time. Again, the rooms that bother you the most, or the rooms that you really don't care about. So if you have 5 rooms and you don't really, I can't say you don't care about, but you don't use them very much, like that guest bedroom, or your kids have gone off to college, they're grown now. They rarely come home other than, for a short visit. So those are the kind of spaces. Don't start on one of the hard areas. Don't start on the kitchen like I did. That was a big mistake. And don't start on things like the garage. Start on areas that are going to be easier for you and you could see some success. That's important. It's those baby steps that you could take. And then you could say, wow, that was some progress. And you're starting to feel good about it.
Yeah. I feel like the things that would fall into that B category would be those things where, yes, I haven't used this for 5 years, but as soon as I get rid of it, tomorrow I'm going to need that. And I know it's there for that day when that comes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's called the someday, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to get pretty strict with yourself. I call it the decluttering muscle. And so it's like if you go to the gym once a week or you go 5 times a week, it's 2 different results. So if you're going to go really easy on yourself and say, hey, yeah, you're right, I might use it in 5 years. If you're getting strict with yourself, you're saying, look, I haven't used it in 5 years. Maybe so-and-so could use it, or maybe it just needs to get donated or trashed. So if you really want to commit to decluttering and downsizing, you have to really be all in. You can't be half and half, because that's what's going to show up is half and half. It's going to be going to the gym once a week versus 5 times a week.
Yeah. What about those someday items that is maybe, I don't know, 20 years in the future? I have, and I know lots of moms that are like this, and I have totes and totes and totes of
Are you saying totes?
Totes, like the Rubbermaid totes, of my favorite clothes that the kids wore when they were infants or toddlers. And I think, this was a $50 sweater that they wore one time. It's good quality. It'll last. And it's so adorable. I'm going to save it for my grandkids. Is that a realistic expectation to think that someday I'm going to, I can just imagine right now if my mother-in-law brought out some of my husband's clothes from when he was a baby, I would say, no way is that going on my kid. But yet I feel the need to hold on to these just adorable little outfits, if for no other reason for them to see them one day, but it's an extravagant amount of.
Right. So, just like you and your mother-in-law, you're thinking, no way, I don't want those, right? So you could choose your top 3.
Yeah.
And say, that little blanket or that teddy bear, whatever it is, choose those top 3. And it could be that sweater. And then the compassionate side of downsizing is who right now could use this. Yeah. So an example for me was I had 11 coats, dressy coats. And of course I wore like 2 or 3. And it was a cold winter day. And I thought, oh my God, like I have all these coats I'm not wearing. I bet someone could use them. So there's this women's homeless shelter that I've been part of for many, many years. I cleaned them. I packed them up. I brought them over there, and the smiles on their faces, you can't forget those smiles.
Yeah.
So it could be true of those sentimental items. Now, another way to deal with that is to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
So lay them all out, take pictures of them, write a story about it. So I bought this when I was in the Bahamas, or, and I was so sure he was going to be so cute in it, or something like that. It is a matter of letting go. And it's that letting go muscle that you have to develop. Now, you said something too that was really quite interesting, and it's so typical of, I spent good money for it, right? So, maybe it was that silk jacket that you bought that was outrageously expensive, but you've probably worn it twice, or, that sweater that maybe your son maybe wore once, whatever. You have to really think about that mindset, about, okay, I spent money for it. All right, I kind of wasted that money, maybe. And wouldn't it be put to better use to either donate it or, give it to someone who could use it? So it's a shift of your mindset.
Yeah.
And you might try 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. It gets easier as it goes.
Sure. Yeah. Just and just practicing that, starting a little bit at a time. And
Yep.
I can't imagine this is something that you can just kind of switch and
No, and nor should you, right? And if there are areas that are really difficult for you, I hope you watch my Facebook Live tonight, because I'm going to walk through the 5 steps. If there's an area that really is hard for you, put that aside and work on some areas that are a little easier for you. So one woman that I know has a spouse who recently died, and she said, Rita, I can't even walk into his closet. I can't even look at his clothing. She's not ready yet.
Yeah.
But then someone else who might have been, widowed for a year or 2 or 3, they might be on a different part of the journey.
Sure.
So, and in terms of, children's clothing, children's artwork, those little things they used to make for us.
Yeah.
It makes me smile to think
Rita.
those are hard to get rid of.
I know.
But if you take a picture of them, if you save, 2 or 3 of them, maybe frame them, do something with them to make, almost memorialize them. But then write a story about it, and then use a Shutterfly. The Shutterfly albums are awesome, because you can have a whole book of my childhood, things that I couldn't let go of. And yet you are letting go of it, because chances are your child will say, Mom, why did you keep that? So that I have older children, they're adults.
Yeah.
And when I was downsizing, I said, oh, I saved this for it because I thought you would want it. Mom, really? That was the answer. So I was holding on to it because I was attached to it.
Yeah.
They were not attached to it.
Yeah.
Things like trophies, right?
Oh,
So
gosh.
I held on to trophies, and they're thinking, first of all, we're minimalists and we don't have a big house. We don't want a big house. Why would I have all my trophies? And so it made me laugh, because I was the one holding on to it, not them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine too, once you get to this point where now you have gone through the rooms, you've gone through the closets, and you've worked those muscles of being able to, let go of things. Moving forward, I would imagine it would ease a lot of financial burdens too, because how many times do you hear somebody walks into Target with milk and walks out with a new wardrobe, right? So, keeping that and maintaining that, I would imagine, is a whole nother freedom. And
that's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. It's about anything, how do you maintain it? So if you lose 30 pounds, how do you maintain that? You do it by not eating as much as you once did, and by exercising more, whatever it is. When it comes to clutter, stop buying more.
Yeah.
Right. Or be intentional about what you buy. Yeah. So I really learn a lot from, this younger generation, because number one, they don't buy nearly as much as my generation did. I'm a baby boomer, and we just bought more because we could. And, you get more, and then you need more and more and more, bigger, better. Yeah. They are not of that mindset. They're very strategic about what they buy. Almost to the point it drives you crazy, because they do so much research before they buy anything, which, takes some of the fun out of it for me. but that's okay. That's who they are. So when they bring in that sofa, they have researched the heck out of that sofa. And anyway, I'm kind of laughing at that, but I admire it because they're not just going out and buying a sofa and a love seat and all the pillows and all the artwork.
Yeah.
They're very deliberate and intentional about what they buy. We could take on more of that mindset. So if you do go into Target for milk or whatever it is that you're going in for, just say, I'm not going to be tempted by any more clothes. I just got rid of a whole boatload of clothes. Or I do need a few summer tops, and I'm going to limit myself to 3. Excuse me.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to wrap up today. I think that you have so much value to bring to so many people who can benefit from this information. Tell me again, where can people find you? You mentioned your website, your YouTube channel, and Facebook. Where can we find you?
Okay. So my my website is designservicesltd.com. My email is Rita Wilkins at ritawilkins.com. And then my Facebook, if you just go to my website, you can just click on any of the icons.
Perfect.
And I would just strongly encourage your guests, your audience, to consider looking at a few of these. We have a lot of free downloads on my website to help people through this journey. I am so committed to people trying to live with less. They may choose not to, but on some level, they're all kind of saying, what would it be like if I didn't have so much stuff, or if I could at least get rid of a lot of this clutter so I can live a simpler, happier life.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Rita. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all of your knowledge with everybody who is listening. And I hope you have a great year. And I hope the flowers are starting to bloom where you are. And it's starting to bloom up.
Yeah. Thank you. I enjoyed our conversation. All right, have a great day.
You too.
If you have found value in these episodes, please be sure to share and subscribe. I have so much more in store with guests that I can't wait to learn from.